It begins subtly. You tell yourself it's temporary, a break, just a new phase. You don't realize that somewhere in the shifting of your surroundings, something more vital is being taken away. You start to wake up in a room that smells faintly of antiseptic and steamed vegetables. The bed isn't yours. The light streaming in through the window seems duller, and the silence no longer comforts. It constricts. There's a schedule taped to the wall, as if your days now belong to someone else. You're informed when meals happen, when medication is dispensed, when activities are offered, none of which you asked for. And you follow the instructions, not because you agree, but because you're told that this is how things work now. There's no sudden collapse, no dramatic turn. What happens is more dangerous because it is so slow. You don't even feel it at first, just small, daily surrenders. You wait for someone to help you dress, even though your hands still work. You accept a plate of food you didn't choose, even if it doesn't appeal to you. You stay seated when you want to move because moving requires asking, and asking requires waiting. Your life becomes a series of permissions, and you adjust because you must. But in that adjustment, something essential slips away. Independence is not taken from you in one swift motion. It evaporates quietly, like warmth leaving a cooling body. You stop noticing its absence until one day you realize you haven't made a single decision all week that was truly your own. And that realization hits you with a weight that's impossible to shake. The loss of freedom is one thing, but the quiet detachment from the outside world, that's a different beast altogether. When you first arrive, people notice. They visit, they call, they send cards and ask how you're settling in. You believe those gestures will last. You believe the connections will remain strong. But time doesn't work that way here. Outside, the days fly. Inside, they crawl. And that difference becomes a canyon that few are willing to cross. It starts with delayed visits, then missed ones. Then a string of holidays where you're dressed in your nicest clothes, sitting near the entrance, waiting for someone who said they'd be there. You begin to recognize the signs. Your name no longer coming up in conversations, decisions made without your input, events that happen without your awareness. People love you, yes, but love does not always equal presence. And in a place like this, absence feels like abandonment, even when you try not to blame them. You find yourself shrinking, not just physically, but in spirit. You begin to question your place in the lives you used to be part of. You feel like a guest in your own story, no longer needed, no longer consulted, and the silence becomes louder. The loneliness turns from occasional to constant. You try to distract yourself. You engage in small talk, in scheduled activities that feel more like time fillers than experiences. But nothing quite reaches you, because it isn't just boredom, it's disconnection. You feel as if you've fallen through a crack in the world and no one noticed. Purpose is harder to describe, but its absence is unmistakable. You used to wake with a reason, maybe not something grand or profound, but meaningful in its own way. A garden to tend, meals to prepare, people to care for. There was motion to your life, tasks that gave structure to your hours. Now your days are blank canvases handed to you without paint. You are no longer responsible for anything, and that at first might sound like a gift. But it is not. It is a slow erosion. When you no longer feel needed, you start to question why you're even here. You sit through the hours not filling them, just enduring them. Days become indistinguishable. You mark time by meals, by when the staff changes shifts. You find yourself staring out the window, not because of what's outside, but because it's the only place not padded, tiled, or beige. You stop checking the date. You stop thinking about the future. Your life becomes a quiet echo of what it once was. And the tragedy is, most people won't notice that either. But perhaps the cruelest part of it all is how fast the body begins to follow the spirit's lead. You don't use your muscles as much. because you no longer have to. No shopping to do, no laundry to carry, no stairs to climb, no walking from one end of the house to the other to turn off forgotten lights. Instead, you're seated, assisted, served, and with every kind gesture meant to help, a bit more of your strength disappears. You begin to tire faster. Your joints stiffen. The steps you used to take so casually now require concentration. Getting up from a chair becomes a task, not a motion. And you realize too late that what you thought was rest was actually deterioration. That in letting others carry the weight, you stopped resisting gravity. And now it pulls on you harder than ever. The body is not meant to be idle, but the environment here encourages it. It's built around safety, yes, but safety without activity becomes a kind of prison. And the moment you decide it's too much effort to keep pushing, you fall further into stillness, a stillness that begins to define you. And still, there's another layer to all of this, a more invisible kind of loss: privacy. You forget what it felt like to be alone on your own terms. You forget what it's like to have a room that is yours, truly yours, where no one enters without invitation. Here, doors open without knocking. Staff enter with good intentions, but not always good timing. Personal space is compressed into a shared room, sometimes with a stranger whose rhythms don't match your own. You adjust your habits. You stop doing certain things because someone might walk in. You lower your voice, change your clothes facing the wall, pretend to be asleep when you want quiet. You lose the rituals of solitude, and with that, your dignity, piece by piece, feels chipped away. You're grateful for help, but you long for agency. You don't want to be spoken to like a child. You don't want to be managed. You want to be asked, not instructed. And yet, instruction becomes the norm. There are routines you cannot change. Meals arrive whether you're hungry or not. Bedtime is suggested strongly. Outings are rare and must be coordinated with staff. Even your hygiene is a matter of scheduling. You begin to measure your self-worth not by what you can do, but by how easily you can fit into the routine. And if you resist too much, you're labeled difficult. So you stop resisting. And in that silence, you feel yourself fade a little more. The part no one tells you is that leaving is harder than arriving. You might believe that if it doesn't work, you can simply go back, that it's just a chapter you can close. But the longer you stay, the more the outside world becomes a memory instead of a destination. Your home, if you had one, may no longer be waiting. Your belongings may be gone. Your strength, your resolve, your independence diminished. And when you tell others you want to leave, their concern can feel like doubt. Are you sure? Can you really manage? It's safer here. We just want what's best. But safety is not the same as living. And the longer you stay in the name of comfort, the more you lose the very essence of what made life rich, unpredictable, and yours. That's the final truth that often goes unspoken. You think you're entering a place to be cared for, but somewhere along the way, you stop being the one living your life. You become the one being lived. They say you're safe. They say you're cared for. They say this is the best place for you. But no one asks if it's where your soul still breathes. There are days you feel like screaming, not in anger, but in ache. Just to remind the walls you're still here, that behind the paperwork and the prescriptions and the polite smiles of nurses moving from room to room, there's still a mind alive with memories. There's still someone in here, but no one has the time to hear a whole story anymore. They ask you how you're doing, and you say fine, because it's easier than explaining what it's like to fade in slow motion. You remember a time when you mattered, when your choices made waves, when people waited to hear what you had to say. You remember the hands you held, the meals you cooked, the days you filled with purpose. And now, even when you close your eyes, it feels like those moments belong to someone else, someone younger, someone more whole, someone who existed before this place. You begin to wonder what's left. What is this life if not waiting? Waiting for visits, waiting for meals, waiting for the next appointment, waiting for time to pass. waiting for the end, though you'd never say it out loud. And when you finally speak that truth in your own mind, it hits you with a quiet force. You are not afraid of dying. You're afraid of dying like this, forgotten, unfinished, erased. But then there are small moments, fleeting, fragile moments. A nurse who stops just long enough to listen, a letter from a grandchild that still smells like home, a song that plays in the hallway and pulls your heart back to a night you danced barefoot in a kitchen with the love of your life. Those moments are oxygen. They keep you from slipping completely. Yet they are rare, and they are not enough. You watch the others around you, some lost in a fog of memories they can't grasp, some still sharp, still witty, still aware of every hour they are wasting. And in their eyes, you see your own reflection, a quiet panic, a longing, a question no one can answer. Why does it have to be this way? Why do the final chapters of our lives look like this? Neatly packaged, stripped of risk, of decision, of spontaneity. Who decided that aging meant surrendering everything that makes life vibrant? You want to say something, to fight. But the world outside moves so fast. People are busy, their lives are full, and yours has become a footnote in theirs. They love you, but they do not see you. Not really, not like before. So you adapt, you smile, you say thank you. You nod when told, you play along, because resisting feels like shouting into the wind. And slowly, imperceptibly, you become what they expect. Quiet, content, accepting. Even if every part of you is still shouting inside, you begin to understand that this is not just a place, it's a system. One built on convenience, on efficiency, on order, but not on joy, not on freedom, and certainly not on dignity. There are exceptions, homes with heart, with staff who see you, who remember you're a person, not a checklist. But they are rare, and even the best places cannot give you back what's already been taken. Sometimes you dream of leaving, of packing up what's left and finding a little house by the sea, of waking up when you want, of making your own breakfast, of falling asleep without fluorescent lights humming above you. But then you think about your knees, your medications, the stairs, and the fear creeps in. What if I fall? What if I forget? What if no one finds me? That fear is the prison. It whispers that you're too old, too fragile, too much of a burden. And if you listen long enough, you start to believe it. You start to tell yourself that this is what you deserve, that this is normal, but it isn't. It's just what we've accepted. It's what a society builds when it worships youth and efficiency and forgets that aging is not a failure, it's a triumph. Every wrinkle, every scar, every memory, they are medals. They mean you've lived, that you've loved, that you've endured. And yet here you are, treated like a problem to be managed, not a story to be honored. There's a cruelty in how we hide our elders away, out of sight, out of rhythm with the world, as if aging were something shameful, as if the sight of a slow gait or a lined face or a trembling hand is too uncomfortable for those rushing by. But one day, they'll all arrive here too. Maybe not in this exact place, but in this season, this chapter. And when they do, they'll remember. They'll remember how they looked the other way, how they said, "She's in a good place now," how they assumed you were happy because you didn't complain. Maybe then they'll understand the ache of invisibility. And maybe, just maybe, something will shift. Because it has to. We cannot keep doing this. We cannot keep locking away our elders in buildings that smell like bleach and sadness, giving them puzzles and plastic cups and calling it a life. We cannot keep pretending that aging is just about survival, not about continued meaning. You deserve more. All of us do. You deserve a life where you are still the author of your days, not a character moved around by other people's schedules. You deserve to eat what you like, to choose how you spend your time, to have your voice matter, You deserve touch, laughter, challenge. You deserve to be surrounded not just by caregivers, but by people who truly see you. Not for what you've lost, but for what you still are. Because you are still here. You are still whole. Even if the world keeps trying to convince you otherwise. And if you're listening now, whether you're in a place like this or love someone who is, know this: it's not too late to reclaim something real. Call them, visit, ask questions, listen. Not with pity, but with presence. Remind them and yourself that life doesn't end when comfort begins. That dignity doesn't require silence. That even in the final stretch, we can still choose how we go. And if you're the one sitting in that quiet room, waiting for the next knock at the door, hear this: you are not forgotten. You are not done. You still carry a fire that the world needs to see. Let them see it. If this story stirred something in your heart, if it made you pause, subscribe to our channel. Because stories like this deserve to be told.